assurance that the state has or will develop within 3 years after receiving funds under this section, licensing standards for childcare providers and a pathway to such licensure that is available to and appropriate for childcare providers in a variety of settings, to ensure providers eligible under the Child Care and Development Block Grant Act of 1990, 42 U.S.C. 9857 et seq. Have a pathway to become eligible providers under this section. K. Reports. The state plan shall include an agreement to provide to the Secretary such periodic reports, providing a detailed accounting of the uses of such funds received under this section, as the Secretary may require for the administration of this section. G. Payments. 1. Transition payments for fiscal years 2022 through 2024. A. Reservations and allotments. I. In general. For each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, the Secretary shall, from the amount appropriated under subsection C. 1a, for each such fiscal year, I. Reserve not less than 4% for Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations for child care assistance. 2. Reserve not less than 0. Five of 1% for Guam, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and the United States Virgin Islands for child care assistance, and 3. From the amount so appropriated and not reserved under subclauses I and 2, make allotments to each state in the same manner as the Secretary makes such allotments using the formula under Section 6580 B of the Child Care and Development Block Grant Act of 1990, 42 U.S.C. 9858 N. B. $9,600,000,000 for each of the fiscal years 2022 through 2027 to carry out the program of grants to localities in subsection I. 2. Definition. For purposes of this paragraph, the term state means the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. B. Payments. I. Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations. I. In general. For each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, from the amount reserved for Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations under subparagraph A. I. The Secretary shall make payments to Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and urban Indian organizations, and the tribes, tribal organizations, and Indian organizations shall be entitled to such payments for carrying out programs or activities consistent with the objectives of this section. 2. Applications. An Indian tribe, tribal organization, or urban Indian organization seeking a payment under Clause 2.2 shall submit an application to the Secretary at such time, in such manner, and containing such information as the Secretary may specify, including the agreement described in subsection F. 4. K. 2. Territories, I, in general. For each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, from the amount reserved for territories under subsection A, I, 2, the Secretary shall make payments to the territories specified in that paragraph, and the territories shall be entitled to such payments for carrying out programs or activities consistent with the objectives of this section. 2. Applications. A territory specified in Clause I, 2, seeking a payment under this clause shall submit an application to the Secretary at such time, in such manner, and containing such information as the Secretary may specify, including the agreement described in subsection F. 4. K. 3. States, for each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, each state that has an application approved under subsection F shall be entitled to a payment under this clause in the amount equal to its allotment under subparagraph A for such fiscal year. C. Authorities. Notwithstanding any other provision of this paragraph, for each of fiscal years 2022 through 2024, the Secretary shall have the authority to reallot funds that were allotted under subparagraph A from any state without an approved application under subsection F by the date required by the Secretary, to states with approved applications under that subsection, to tribes with an approved application under subparagraph A. 2, and to territories with an approved application under 2. Payments for fiscal years 2025 through 2027, A. In general, for each of fiscal years 2025 through 2027, I. Child care assistance for eligible children, I. In general. The Secretary shall pay to each state with an approved application under subsection F, and that state shall be entitled to an amount for each quarter equal to 90% of expenditures in the quarter for child care assistance for eligible children described under subsection H(2)(b). The Secretary shall pay to each state with an approved application under subsection F, and that state shall be entitled to an amount for each quarter equal to 90% of expenditures in the quarter for the components of the Child Care Entitlement Program described under subsection H(2)(b). 2. Exception: funds reserved from the amount under subsection H(2)(c) shall be subject to clause 2. 2. Activities to improve the quality and supply of child care services. The Secretary shall pay to each state with such an approved application, and that state shall be entitled to an amount for each quarter equal to the FMAP of expenditures in the quarter to carry out the quality and supply building activities under subsection H(2)(c), subject to the limits specified in clause I of such subsection. 3. Administration. The Secretary shall pay to each state with such an approved application, and that state shall be entitled to an amount for each quarter equal to 50% of expenditures in the quarter for the costs of administration incurred by the state, which shall include reasonable costs incurred by the state in carrying out the child care program established in this section. And 2, which may include, at the option of the state, costs associated with carrying out requirements, policies, and procedures described in Section 658H of the Child Care and Development Block Grant Act, 42 U.S.C. 9858 F.B. Advance Payment, Retrospective Adjustment. For each of fiscal years 2025 through 2027, the Secretary may make payments under this subsection for each quarter on the basis of advance estimates of expenditures submitted by the state and such other investigation as the Secretary may find necessary, and shall reduce or increase the payments as necessary to adjust for any overpayment or underpayment for previous quarters. C. Flexibility in submittal of claims. Nothing in this subsection shall be construed as preventing a state from claiming as expenditures in a quarter expenditures that were incurred in a previous quarter and not claimed in such previous quarter. D. Territories and tribes. for each of fiscal years 2020.